Okay, here's part 2 of the Paisley Candlewick design, and let's get this design finished and show you a few other things you can do with candlewicking. So we finished down here after we did part 1, which I'll put a link below in the description. Always read the description because I have lots of useful information in there sometimes, so check that out. Now yes, so if I go out of True View, and we can see that we started here with the candlewicks, we did those, we did all the other objects, and we've finished just finding the dotted line, which should end up here. Yes, I've got a little triangle there. I've got my connectors showing so I can see those happening. So far, because I've pathed, they're the only real jump stitches apart from the one from the candlewicking to the start of the straight stitches. So that one there is a jump stitch at this present time. Okay, so because we finished here, I want to now do these spirals. I have pathed around from here, so I've already put a path under there. So what I'm going to do is path in this direction to this spiral, and then I will path right around here to the other two spirals, so that I've only got one path underneath any one part of the candlewicking. You could probably get away with two, but I just want to reduce the amount of pathing underneath if at all possible. Okay, so let's get our path in really quickly. So we're going to get our open object, a single outline in the standard blue colour, but you can choose any colour you like. So I'm going to left click here where I finished, and then I'm going to come into the middle of the candlewick and then follow along just like I did in the previous video pathing. Let's see, where do I need to get to? I need to get to this candlewick here, so I'm just going to go through to there, through to there, and into the middle, and then out to, this one, backspace, through to that one, and then probably there and across to the spiral, and enter. Now my triangle is here and also my white cross because I'm not in True View. So now I'm going to digitize this spiral. Now I want to not have a jump stitch from the end of the spiral, but we'll sort that out in a minute. So I'm going to just digitize it with my back stitch that I decided I was going to use for this one, just to add a bit more interest. So I'm going to select my back stitch. I'm going to right click on that and set up what parameters I want for the back stitch so that every spiral I do now will have the same properties. So if you do it before you digitize, you will retain those properties for every object you digitize after that, and then unless you change them. So unless you stop and change the properties. Okay, so the stitch length is 3. I'm okay with that because I've got quite a tight spiral. I don't want it any longer, sorry. The stitch thickness is 2 millimeters. That is really the width. It can go up to 0.25. So I will actually do that. I want it to look quite bold. So it's now 0.25, and I am going to I think I'll leave it on the 3. I'm leaving the overlap, which is how far they overlap here, as the default, and I think I will also leave the strokes as 3. I don't want it too heavily stitched because I will need to run underneath it. So I'm going to go OK with that, and I'm going to left click here and right click around the spiral. Noticing that I'm putting in more nodes when I get into the tight circle, and when I get to the end I'm just going to hit enter. Now we can see that this is going to cause a jump stitch. Let's go into True View. It's quite thick, so we could actually get a run stitch under there, I think, without it being noticed. So what I'm going to do is go into my individual objects here, and I'm going to select that spiral, and I'm going to make it a double run so that I don't need to digitize it again. So I'm going to go to the edit and choose double run. Now I've got two backstitch objects on top of each other. I want the first one to be a single run, to come out to the end here, and then I want it to backstitch over the top of that single run back to this point here. So I'm going to choose the first one and change that to a single run. And I think you'll be quite satisfied with that. I can't see any problem with that single run under there. When you go out of True View, and I'll just click off, you can see that it doesn't actually go outside these parts of the back stitching. So that will work quite well. And now we're back to here again, and we can path around to the other spirals. So I could have digitized a single run and then applied double run and change the second one to backstitch. It really doesn't matter what order you do this in, so long as you've got a single run coming out to the end and then the backstitch coming back to the candlewicking. Okay, now we're going to digitize our next path. Now you don't need to watch me do that, so I'll pause the video and I'll come back when I get to the next spiral. Okay, so I've made my path from here going around. Should be able to just see that pink line coming around here because I've got it selected, it's pink, and my white crosses here. So I can now start this spiral. Now with this spiral, it's a little bit different because we've got one branching off here. So we can actually use the branching tool here to improve it. So we're going to just digitize both these spirals as separate objects with the back stitch, and then we will use the branching tool. So I'm going to get my digitize and open object, my back stitch, which will have the same settings as this back stitch because I set it up before I started. And I'm going to do this one first, starting at the white cross. Enter, and now this one. Again, make sure you actually touch the two objects together so that they will branch, and enter. Now I'll just check in here that we've got. We might need to reshape that a little bit. We'll see if it works. It's very close. I'll see if it'll work. If it doesn't, I'll have to reshape this one to go a little bit into this one. Alright, so we'll select both those objects, the first one, and hold our shift key down and select the second one. Because they're next to each other, that will work fine. Control would have also worked. Now we're going to go to our edit toolbox and we are going to select the branching tool. Now with the branching tool, it's a bit different to Blackwork Run. You need to enter an entry point and an exit point. Now we want them both at the beginning here. So if we zoom in, let's deselect that first. So I'm just going to get my select tool so that I don't start digitizing, and click off, escape out of that. Oh, I'm still in the branching tool. Yes, I was hoping I could see the connecting tools, but I can't. So I'm just going to click here, which is as close as I can find it, and I'll see if, and then it's saying enter the exit point, so I'll click in the same spot, and it actually jumped to where that connector was, so that's really good. So that has branched those two objects. You can see now that they are both in the one object, even though I'm in individual objects. So it's put a running stitch underneath. I'll just change the colour of that temporarily so that I can quickly show you in the stitch out how that's going to work. So we'll get our stitch player and we'll come up here to the green, and you'll see that it's going to do a running stitch around, then it's doing the back stitch back over there. It's then going to run around that one and back stitch, and then continue the back stitch back to the beginning. So that's really neat. So if you have spirals like that, that's how you treat those. Now, of course, if you've got version 8, or even if you're watching this with version 7, because you could probably do it with version 7 as well, you won't have the branching tool. So let's just undo that, and I'll very quickly show you how to manually do that. So we'll undo the branching. So now I've got my 2 separate objects here. I probably will even undo that before I even start the spiral, because you can do it, if you think about it, you can do it as you go. So we'll undo both those objects. Right, so, and bring back our image. Alright, so we have ended up here where this little triangle is, after our path came around. Yes, there's the path there, and it's finishing here at this triangle. Okay, so then I would I'll just deselect that, and I'm going to have to manually path and then put my back stitch over the top. So you could do it in lots of ways. You could do it the way the stitch player showed just previously. You could put the paths in that order. So I believe it pathed around here, back stitched back to here, then pathed out here and back stitched back to there, and continued on. Or you could path up here and out to here, do your back stitch here, continue pathing on here, and then back stitch all the way back. So let's just do it that way as an alternative. But as I said, you can choose how you do it so long as you achieve the result you want. So we need to start with our path, our open object, our running stitch, started our white cross. So I'm going to come around here and stop. And enter, because I now need to change to my back stitch. And then so I get my back stitch, should still have the same object properties, and I'm going to just follow that digitizing line around. Let's just escape for a minute. Let's show our outline so we can actually see the line. It's the black smooth line is the digitizing line. I'm going to turn off my needle points, and I'll just follow that black line with the back stitch. So following that black smooth curved line rather than the jagged stitching, because it's a tight curve and those stitches are short straight stitches trying to get around that curve. But I'm just following the black outline, and I'm going to stop there. Enter. So now I've got my back stitch on top of my running stitch. Now I'll go back to my running stitch and I'll continue my path around here. So as you can see, if you've been sitting on the fence about upgrading to version 9, this is an ideal opportunity to reconsider, because this is a lot more tedious than having to do it with the branching tool. Okay, because then you have to go back and get your back stitch again and then digitize this curve again. I'm following the black outline, which is the smooth curve, not the jagged stitches. And I can continue on all the way back now to the start. So there we go, enter, and I'll continue on with the design now. Okay, right, we'll just change that now back to the blue so that we don't get colour changes that we don't need. And we'll zoom in, and this is one of those cases where I have done something, so I no longer have my white cross here, it's actually jumped back to the end of the design over here. So I'm going to use this black triangle that's just here to start my next path. So digitize, single run, open object, single run. And all I need to do is path down to here where this one starts. So I'll quickly do that. I'll be very quick. It's only a short distance. There I am. And then come out here so I can start that. And enter. And again, digitize. I may as well do this in a single run this time. Oh, I've kept the green for some reason, so I'll select that. And change it to the blue. And now I will select the blue as my colour for digitizing. I might have to do the open object first, then select the blue. Yes, now I've got blue as my active colour, and I'll do it the other way around this time. So last time I made this the back stitch first, and then changed the first one to be a running stitch after I'd done double run. This time I'm going to do a single run, just so you can see that it doesn't matter what order you do this in. And enter there, select that object, make it a double run in the edit toolbox, and now the second one will have to be the back stitch. So while that's selected, just change that to your back stitch, and again the properties will be copied from all the other spirals because we set them up first. Alright, select and click off. Let's go into True View and have a look what that looks like. I think you'll agree it's quite attractive. Now we need to do this leaf inside here. We cannot path to that because it's not touching any other object, so we can't avoid a jump stitch here. But at least if we start here, the jump stitch will be fairly short and easy to trim. So I'm going to use the branching tool here as well. Sorry, no, I'm going to use Blackwork Run with this, so I'm just going to use a single outline. Select the digitize toolbox, get your open object, single outline, and I'm going to do the stem up the middle first. Just with right clicks till I get to this point, then a left click there. Then I'm going to actually do right clicks around here. Again, don't be too fussed if you're not exactly on the line. And I'll zoom in because I want to end where I started that shape. And now I'm going to do each of these other parts of the leaves. So click on the stitching so that you are definitely going to get that included in the Blackwork Run. And I was a bit off, so I'll just make sure I click on the stitching and not worry about the image. Enter. You could have reshaped that stem if you weren't happy with it not being as accurate as you might want. And so on. So I don't think you need to see me do all of these. I'll pause the video while I do the other side pieces, and then I'll come back and apply the Blackwork Run. Okay, I've got all the pieces done. So now I'm going to select all of those. So they start here. Whoops, didn't get the right one. That one. And scroll down to the bottom of the colour film and hold my shift key down and select the last one, and all the ones in between will select, and then I can go to my edit toolbox and choose Blackwork Run and enter my entry point, which I want to be here. And now you can see that's all one object. It'll stitch as one object. Now I'm going to hide the image altogether, and we're in True View, but if we go out of True View, we can see that we have got the design jumping from the center to the start, doing the candle wicks. So we don't want that anymore. We want those candle wicks to stitch last. So what we need to do is go to the top of our color film, select the candle wicks, and come here to move to end. So that's now gone to the end of the design after everything else has stitched. So we now have the design starting here and coming to, if we go to colour film, coming to this part here, which is this part here. So you can see a jump stitch that will not be a jump stitch, it's just how the design aligns in the hoop in your machine. And then it will stitch this part here. It will then path around here and stitch these 3 loops here, and then path around here and stitch this spiral, and then path right around and stitch this spiral, path around and stitch this spiral, and then jump over here to stitch this leaf, and then from the end of the leaf it will jump to the beginning of the candle wicking. Now your machine should trim that. If you have a machine that trims, let's just bring on our grid, or I could have measured, but it looks to me to be at least 4 or 5 millimeters across there, so that's more than 2 millimeters, so it definitely will trim and start there. But if your machine doesn't trim, you might run into trouble with the candle wicking stitching over your jump stitch. So in that case I would change the colour of the candle wicking to a different colour so that you get a stop and it will tie off here and then move on. You don't need to change the thread in your machine, you can still stitch all in one colour, but it will force a tie off here, and that means you won't have a jump stitch under the candle wicking. This jump stitch here is also going under the candle wicking, so would be difficult to remove afterwards as well. So you might you would have time to, when this stops after you get to the end of this part, you will have time to trim this one as well, if you have a machine that doesn't trim. Okay, most machines these days trim. So I hope you liked that design. It's all done. There's nothing else to do because we pathed as we went, because we planned the design out. We don't have to move any objects or paths at all. Everything's going to run very smoothly, and all these ends have been covered over by the candle wicking. Okay, put that in True View. Now of course you can use candle wicking as a fill. I'll just move my recording bar out of the way. Okay, so you can create a shape with the candle wicking fill, but just be mindful that you will have a lot of stitches, so there'll be a high stitch count for a candle wick fill. But let's just create a shape quickly. So digitize a closed object, and let's bring our image back, and let's select our design and move that out of the way. Oh, I've selected the image as well. Let's just select the image and bring that over here. Alright, okay, so I could create this Paisley shape with candle wicks. So if we get a closed object and we choose the candle wick fill, we can, I'll just do the inside one. I haven't set up the candle wicking size or anything, but it should take it from the one I was using for the design. May not, we'll see when we've done it. So again, as I said, this is going to be stitch intensive, so you might want to reduce the size of it even more to make a small shape, or you might be happy. Now you'll see that you do get half candle wicks on the edges of a fill depending on the shape, and you would need to put some sort of border around this as well because it's traveling on edges, and so you're going to have some gaps and some places where there's a running stitch around the edge. So if I hide the image, you can see that more obviously here. But as you can see, it is possible to create a candlewick fill, and just the same as your pattern, you can select that fill and you can right click on it and go to the object properties, and we need to be in the fill stitch properties, and you do have a layout button. So I've talked about the layout button in the fancy fill and the pattern fill. It works exactly the same. So if you go back and watch those videos, I'll link those below as well, and you can find out how to work the layout button. But basically, if you click on the layout, you can actually put your candlewick in a better position, for instance, and enter, and it will move. You can center things over. So if you're doing the center of a flower, a little circle, let's just close that for the moment, and we'll make an ellipse in the candlewick fill, and we'll just make a tiny little ellipse. I'm going to hold my control key down so that I get a nice even angle on my candlewicks, and enter. And as you can see here, it's not perfectly centered in the center of the flower. Let's see how big that center is. It's a bit, probably a bit big for a center of a flower anyway, so we'll select it and reduce the size a little bit down to about 1 centimeter. Okay, so you may want, you know, just one of these candlewicks right in the middle. So you would select it, right click on it, go to the object properties, go to the layout, and then you can take this bottom left one and you can center that in the middle of your ellipse. And if I'd lined it up on a grid line, I would have been able to find that center a lot better. But that's as good as I'm going to get it, I think. Enter. That's not bad, so that it's even. And you may even want to use a smaller candlewick for the center of a flower. So it's defaulted to the 4.5, which is rather large. Let's go to the half, not 3, or let's go to the 3mm one and apply that. That's better. Okay, you can also do ellipses and rectangles with the outline of the candlewicking. So we can select the ellipse again. We can use the candlewick run instead of the fill. I'm just going to turn on my snap to grid. Snap to grid, yes, okay, and I'm going to click here, and probably only want to click halfway along, and enter. Oh, no, I want to make a bigger circle than that. That looks a bit odd, doesn't it? And also, I think I'll set up the 3mm candle. Oh, no, let's just make a bigger circle. So I'll undo that. Get the ellipse tool again. Let's make a circle about this big. Enter. Okay, and that is the 4.5 with the gap in between. I'll just move this one out of the way. So if I wanted my candlewicks to abut, then I would have to change the spacing, even if I want to keep them that large. So I'll right click on there, go to the object properties for the fill, for the outline stitch. There we go. I can change this to 4.5, and that will match the size, and that way they will abut. Apply. There we go. So that's the circles. Circles are really good. It spaces them out really well. It may overlap them ever so slightly so that it can get a whole number of candlewicks and not stop with a half candlewick or something silly like that. So it's really good the software does that. Okay, let's do the rectangle quickly. I just want to do one up here. Let's go. There we go. Same thing happened. I got the I've got to get the spacing down to 4.5. Now you might find an issue with the rectangle. We'll see when it happens. Oh, I have to select it first. Oh, escape. Get my select tool. Now it's selected. Now change it to 4.5 and apply. It's done a pretty good job of making it the same all the way around, but you're not necessarily getting a Candlewick right on the corner. So this is a case, I'll just close that. This is a case where if you want a Candlewick right on each corner, then you may have to digitize open objects and build up your rectangle out of two horizontal objects, and then put your Candlewicking vertical objects in between here, so that you get a nice square corner with a Candlewick right in the corner. So that's an option, but it actually looks quite attractive with them. They're just overlapping, and this is the bigger Candlewick, so it should work okay like that. The other tool you can use with the Candlewick, of course, is your pattern stamp. So you can left click on that, and it's gone to Candlewicking because that's what I was working with. But if not, you would have to find your pattern set in here and then choose your pattern. So let's go with the 4mm one this time and go OK, and I can left click and stamp just one Candlewick. Now this is really good if you want to use them as antenna, the ends of antennas on insects, or if you want to just add a few accents around a flower or something like that. You can just add a few Candlewicks here and there, just a few dot accents basically. If you want to, you can make these larger by holding your shift key down, but again be careful of your stitch length. So if I left click, hold my shift key down, I can stretch this out. But let me just make it really big for an example, and left click, and let's go to out of escape. We have to escape out of the tool and go out of true view and show our needle points. And I'm going to zoom in. It is actually adding extra needle points in here to get the distance, so that's not too bad, but it might not look as smooth as a normal Candlewick, but it's worth experimenting with to see what sort of result you get with a large Candlewick. You can then use it as a feature on some piece. So again, always test sew everything. So even if you just do one large Candlewick and test sew that to see how it works, and then if you know it works fine, then you can use it in any of your designs. Okay, if you'd like to know more about Candlewicking or any other topic, then comment below, or you, as I said before in my previous video, you can book a one-on-one session with me if you've got a particular issue you want me to go in depth with you on. Please like and subscribe so that you don't miss any videos I make in the future. So when you subscribe, turn on the notifications so you get notified. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you. Bye.